Hi, welcome to Polyphonic Press. I'm Jeremy Boyd.
And I'm John Van Dyke.
And today we're going to be talking about the future of radio. Here we go. Alright, so this isn't really an article or anything that we stumbled upon or anything like that. It's just kind of something that we've sort of realized and sort of what's going on. And like a lot of things in the music industry, we're in a transition period. And radio is certainly no exception. I don't actually... Do people even listen to the radio anymore?
It depends on the radio. Yeah. You still hear it in stores and restaurants and stuff like that. And you hear people listen to it in their cars because it's just still one of the easiest things to do in your car.
True. But now they have connected cars where you can plug in your phone and you can listen to podcasts.
Not everybody drives a connected car.
Yeah, that's true. But they are becoming more popular.
Yes, they are.
And pretty soon, within the next 5-10 years, used cars the new cars now will be used cars. Yep. And so everyone eventually will have that capability. So, pretty much like all technology. So what's the future of radio, terrestrial radio anyway? When you think about things like, back in the 90s, I guess, radio, in the States at least, seemed to be a little more risky. I mean, they had people like Howard Stern and Opie and Anthony who were not swearing on the radio, but their content was still... Their
content was kind of a little on the...
Yeah. So, but then things... the FCC started to tighten things up, and now those guys are on satellite radio, and now terrestrial radio doesn't really have... I mean, there is no star of radio anymore. Like, back in the 80s and 90s, Howard Stern was like a rock star without being a musician, pretty much. He was really popular. There
used to be, radio rock stars and whatnot, not just
rock
in the 90s
stars too,
but are now radio announcers.
Yeah, and now they all have the same personality.
Yes, and I've noticed that, and a lot of times they even have the same voice.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
And what they have is the morning radio, especially, seems to be. They have the crazy guy, the straight guy, and the woman who says that's not funny. That seems to be the format of morning radio.
I can't
pretty much
stand
everywhere.
Morning radio.
Yeah.
Honestly, morning radio makes me want to go back to bed.
Yeah, that's for sure. But as far as music goes, I don't think people discover new music. Maybe local radio. I know there's a local radio station in Brooklyn that plays a lot of indie, of course in Brooklyn, but they play a lot of independent music. And so I think maybe that way that's a good way to discover new music, but the signal is not very strong, and so it only gets broadcast either on the internet, so you have to know about it, or just in the, whatever mile radius that the signal goes.
Is it, do they concentrate on like Brooklyn artists?
No, not really.
Oh.
Not just Brooklyn artists, just more independent music.
Okay.
In general.
Because there's, Toronto has Indie 88, and it sort of concentrates a little bit on that same sort of genre.
Yeah.
A bit.
Yeah.
But unlike the 50s and the 60s, you can't just go to a radio station and get your band played on your local radio station. No. It doesn't work that way anymore. Where it did then.
You could, they still had payola.
Payola was sort of the, that was corrupting that sort of thing. That was like extra cash going along with their records, so certain artists would get looked over other ones.
Yeah. But, which still happens, but
certainly.
It's more...
But it's legalized.
But they call it good business now.
Yeah.
So radio, it all, like I was saying, I think to you earlier, it all kind of happened in the early 1980s. Whereas in the 60s and 70s, FM radio was, the DJ had control over what they played. They could they had a personality. You didn't. The downfall of what radio became is they had no talk stations. So like 90 minutes, like hundreds of minutes of just music and commercials. But if I'm going to listen to just music, I'll just listen to my iTunes. If I'm going to listen to the radio, I want to hear something interesting about the band or something interesting to listen. I want something to break up the music.
Well, this is why when I put on the radio, it's almost always on the CBC.
Yeah.
Because the radio stations, the radio shows that I like to listen to on that, usually they'll pick a genre or, sometimes not even a genre, but they'll pick a theme.
Yeah.
And they'll go with that. And then they'll play the song and they'll say something about the band, they'll introduce it, they'll have a little bit of a history on it. Mm-hmm. And I like that.
Even when it's not, even on CBC Radio 2, when they're just playing music, they'll still interrupt and say something interesting about the band. Whereas I noticed on, I won't say the station, but our local station, they'll have something that has nothing to do with the music.
Sometimes they don't even mention what they just played.
Yeah.
And that bothers me.
That really bothers me.
Especially when I want to know. I was like, what is that? Who is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So people don't really, I don't listen to the radio other than at work to discover new music. My music discovery comes from the internet and listening to, watching channels like mine, where I'll check out a band of a review or something like that, or reading music blogs like that's how I discover new music. I can't remember the last time I heard a song on the radio and wondered who that is, because I know all the songs on the radio and
top 40 radio, yeah,
and it's not interesting to me. Mm-hmm. So the future of radio looks very bleak, unfortunately. I think satellite radio is the way to go too, because you have interesting shows, not just like Howard Stern, but like a lot of interesting music shows on that.
Its main drawback is that you have to pay for it.
Yeah,
unlike standard
radio
signals.
What you're paying for is no commercials.
This is true.
So, and worldwide, or at least North America wide coverage, the signal won't get dropped out of when you go out of town.
It's true.
But so that's what you're paying for, but it's worth paying for, I think. I can't afford it, but if I could, I would subscribe to
I
XM
probably
or
would
Sirius,
too,
because there's a lot of really great content on it. So I think maybe that's, I don't know if the future, I don't know if terrestrial radio can survive in the age of satellite radio and the internet. It's going to be interesting to see. Somebody would have to completely come along and shake it up, and then that has to become the industry standard, and then they all have to switch around, and it needs more freedom involved. Yes, that's another problem. That's another problem. Everything's too controlled. Yeah, not just by the government, by companies as well. Yeah, corporate controlled. So anyway, let us know in the comments what you guys think. Do you still listen to the radio? What do you think the future of radio is? Do you think it's going to be a slow death, or do you think there could be something that comes along to save it? Let us know in the comments. Be sure to subscribe so you know when we post new videos. You can check us out on Twitter and Facebook. Follow John on Twitter @FunkyDutch. And that's about it. I'm Jeremy Boyd.
I'm John Van Dyke.
Take it easy.